Hi friends, and welcome back to MV Stories. Today we'll look at a few Reddit stories. Today's story comes from the the A-hole subreddit. It was posted by Remote War 7356 and was titled, "Am I the a-hole for cutting off my daughter after she slept with her sister's husband? I, 59 female, have two daughters, Emma, 35 female, and Chloe, 33 female. Emma has been married to her husband, 36 male, for 11 years, and they have two children together. Chloe has been married to her husband, 34 male, for 8 years, and they have one 5-year-old son. About 6 weeks ago, Emma called me just after midnight, completely hysterical. She told me she'd suspected for months that her husband was hiding something. He'd become distant, constantly guarded his phone, and was always finding excuses to stay late at work. That night, after he fell asleep beside her, she looked through his phone for the first time. She found years of explicit messages between him and Chloe. The affair had been going on for almost 4 years. Emma was devastated. She kept asking me how her own sister could do this to her. A few days later, we were at my brother's birthday party when Emma confronted Chloe outside. Chloe denied everything at first and insisted Emma had misunderstood. When Emma said she'd read the messages herself, Chloe completely fell apart. She started crying, admitted the affair, and kept repeating, "I don't know why I did it. I'm so sorry. It was the biggest mistake of my life." Emma asked how 4 years could possibly be a mistake. Chloe had no answer. The argument escalated into a screaming match. Chloe tried to slap Emma, but several relatives stepped in before she could. Chloe's husband quietly took their son home after realizing what had happened. Within days, he told Chloe he wanted a divorce. Emma also filed for divorce after her husband admitted everything. After it all came out, Chloe called me 82 times in one day. I answered once because I hoped she was calling to explain herself. Instead, she cried the entire time, begging me not to abandon her. She said she'd already lost her husband, was probably going to lose shared custody of her son, and couldn't bear losing her mother too. She said she knew she didn't deserve forgiveness, but begged me not to hate her forever. I told her I couldn't look at her the same way anymore. I said this wasn't one bad decision. It was years of lying to her sister, her husband, and the rest of us. I told her I loved her because she's my daughter, but I didn't want contact with her for the foreseeable future. Since then, I've ignored every attempt she's made to reach out. This is where my family thinks I'm wrong. My sisters say Chloe has already lost everything. Her marriage, her relationship with her sister, many of her friends, and likely the family she dreamed of giving her son. They say she's genuinely remorseful, has started individual therapy, and isn't trying to justify what she did. They argue that if a mother won't stand by her child after they've hit rock bottom, who will? They also remind me that cutting Chloe off means my grandson is growing up without his grandmother, even though he's done nothing wrong. I understand all of that, but every time I think about welcoming Chloe back into my life, I picture Emma reading those messages alone in the middle of the night, realizing that two of the people she trusted most have been lying to her for years. I don't know if I can move past that. My family says I'm punishing Chloe forever for something she already deeply regrets. I feel like I'm simply refusing to pretend it never happened. Am I the a-hole? I know a lot of people are used to seeing cheating posts and always thinking they are fake, but what would you do if you were in my shoes? Relevant comments. Commenter 1 says, "Not the a-hole, she's not genuinely remorseful. She's sad she got caught and is facing consequences. Can't you have a relationship with your grandson via his father? Tell your sisters to mind their own business. This is between you and your daughters, nothing to do with them." Opie replied, "I can kind of have a relationship with him, but the problem is that he wants his child to grow up closer to his own family who lives in another city rather than his ex-wife's family." Commenter 2 says, I personally can't think of anything my kid would do that would cause me to cut her off permanently, but I would probably take a break for a while to organize my feelings. There's 10,000% nothing that could happen that would make me willing to cut off my grandkid. What Chloe did was unforgivable, but I would ask you, how would you feel if something happened to Chloe right now? How would you feel? If you don't feel anything, then you have your answer about what you want to do. Opie replied, "It depends on what happens to her. If she is struggling with her mental health or got into an accident, I would obviously help her like a mother would. I admit I might have been harsh when I told her for the foreseeable future, but I was thinking of my daughter Emma and how she would be feeling right now. I love both my daughters equally from the moon and back, but I'm just torn in this decision. Commenter 3 says, "Not the a-hole. You have a daughter that has been completely destroyed by her own sister and her own husband. She's the one that needs your support. Not the one that chose to cheat on her husband with her own sister's husband. She made the conscious decision for 4 years. That's not forgivable in my eyes. She made the decision. She can face her own consequences. I'm sure her soon-to-be ex-husband will still allow you to be part of your grandson's life. Reach out to him and let him know you are not speaking to her. And just be there for Emma and her kids." Hope you replied. Thank you so much. I have reached to him, but haven't heard anything back yet. Hope he responds to a long comment on if it is possible for Chloe to lose full custody of her son because she cheated. Hope he says she might not. Her ex-husband wants to move far away from all of this. He wants to move to his own side of the family, which lives in a different city. It would be hard for Chloe to be there for her son unless she moves with him or gets an apartment there, which I don't think she would unless she really wants to see her son. Commenter 4 says, "So she would rather lose her son than move to be near him? There is nothing on this earth that would have prevented me from fighting tooth and nail to keep my kids. How far away is his family? She can absolutely file an emergency stay order to keep the kids locally until custody is settled, and wrong by her or not. Most courts will put the children's needs first. Courts tend to prioritize joint custody regardless of what dad or mom thinks, unless one parent is willing to sign rights away. She needs a lawyer as soon as possible. If she is willing to walk away from her son without a fight, then he is better off without her. And that tells me a little bit more of her character, and it makes me even less sympathetic to her than I already was." Opie replied, "We are in Florida, and his family is in Washington." Commenter 5 says, "Not the a-hole. Chloe is only regretful BC she's been caught. It's not like it was a one-time thing for even a couple months. It was 4 years. That requires active decision-making to not only continue the affair, but to hide it from her husband and her family. I think space right now is definitely needed. Try to find a way to stay in contact with your grandson's father. And I personally believe if you cut out Chloe that it may make things easier for your ex-son-in-law to trust and allow you to visit if he gets sole custody. She is an adult and has to live with her choices. I wouldn't be able to speak with my sibling if they did this to me. I think as a parent you love your child no matter what, and you still can, but I don't think you're the asshole to cut contact with Chloe. Whether it is permanent or not is up to you. Chloe made this choice, and these are the consequences. She lost everything because her and Emma's husband destroyed each other's lives and marriages. That's the worst thing you can do to a sibling." Commenter 6 says, "Not the a-hole. This wasn't a mistake. This was a calculated and prolonged affair with a man her own sister loved and married. That's not to mention the betrayal to the man she herself married, which is a second level of despicable. Chloe isn't genuinely remorseful. She's genuinely wishing she hadn't obliterated her entire support circle in one fell swoop. She's crying that she has to face consequences. She would have kept it going for who knows how long if this had never come out. That she denied it at first is all you need to know she doesn't feel a shred of remorse. She just doesn't want to lose you along with everyone else in her life. Whether she does is entirely up to you. I personally could never look at my child the same way if they felt so utterly callous about betraying the two people she's supposed to love most in the world." Update. I know it's very early for me to post an update, and I wasn't planning on it, but after reading the comments on my first post, I decided I needed one final conversation with Chloe before I completely closed the door. I went to her house yesterday, and I expected her to be emotional after calling me 82 times in one day, but she was surprisingly calm. I asked her the one question I still couldn't understand. Why? She admitted she'd been attracted to Emma's husband for years. She said what started as admiration eventually became feelings, and over time they cross a line. Instead of ending it, they kept convincing themselves it would be the last time. She insisted she regretted everything. I asked if she'd spoken to Emma. She told me the only contact she'd had was one text before Emma blocked her on everything. Emma told her she destroyed their family, taken away her children's stable home, and that she hoped the affair had been worth losing a sister forever because, as far as she was concerned, Chloe no longer had one. Emma blocked her immediately afterward. Chloe also admitted she later waited outside the school gates, hoping to speak to Emma when she came to collect the kids. Emma refused to speak to her, warned her to stay away from her and the children, and told her that if she ever approached them again, she'd regret it. Chloe left crying. I told Chloe her waiting outside the school was completely inappropriate, regardless of her intentions. She insisted she only wanted to apologize and prove she cared about Emma. I then asked if she truly felt remorse. That's when I completely lost my patience. Instead of taking full responsibility, Chloe started telling me Emma's marriage had already been falling apart, that Emma and her husband had been drifting apart for years, and that he often confided in her. She admitted the affair was wrong, but repeatedly tried to place part of the blame on Emma, saying if their marriage had been happier, none of this would have happened. I was furious. I honestly couldn't believe I had raised someone capable of thinking like that. I told her there is no marriage bad enough to justify secretly sleeping with your own sister's husband for 4 years. I told her I wasn't just disappointed, I was ashamed that she was my daughter. The more she tried to justify herself, the angrier I became. The conversation eventually turned to her own divorce. She talked about how difficult everything had been for her and how her husband still plans to move to Washington with their son to be closer to his family. She said she may have to move there too if she wants to stay close to him. As she spoke, I realized almost everything was about what she had lost: her marriage, her home, her reputation, and possibly seeing her son every day. Very little of it was about Emma or the damage she'd caused. At the end of the conversation, Chloe asked if we were cool now. I told her no, we were not cool, and we might never be. I said that if I ever found it in my heart to reconcile with her, it would be on my terms and in my own time, not because she thought one conversation could erase 4 years of lies and betrayal. I walked out feeling angrier than when I arrived. I honestly don't know what to do anymore. I love both of my daughters, but after that conversation, I'm not convinced Chloe truly understands the pain she's caused. Relevant comments. Commenter 1 says, "Why does the other woman always believe that my marriage is falling apart and I'm not actually close to my wife? Bullshit. Every single time. We all know this man would have happily remained in his marriage with his side chick's sister-in-law forever if Emma didn't find him out. Hell, he's probably begging Emma in text to give him another chance, and that Chloe means nothing to him. Tale as old as time, but the women keep falling for it. Baffling." Hope you replied. I'm pretty sure there might be a final part 3. I'm not sure how many parts one can keep making before Reddit says otherwise. Emma and her husband did have some problems, but they were mostly, if not always, minor and nothing serious. I'm still trying to process how it was going on for 4 years without anyone knowing. Commenter 2 says, "I read the first post, and I still am confused at why Emma's husband's behavior changed all of a sudden if it was going on for 4 years. Why did he suddenly become cagey, defensive, and hiding his phone if it's been going on for the last 4 years?" Opie replied, "Because Emma was all of a sudden curious and had a feeling he was cheating on her. I think he sensed that and didn't want the secret to be found." Commenter 3, "Chloe and Em's husband are still seeing each other and are now free to be together. Why did they stay in their marriages if they were so unhappy?" Opie replied, "Chloe told me that her and Emma's husband haven't talked since. She texted him, but he never responded." Commenter 4 says, "Not the a-hole. Chloe honestly sounds like a narcissist. I know that word gets thrown around a lot, but I think it fits here. Think about it if you think I'm overreacting. In order to be able to cheat, you'll have to put your empathy to your partner and others who might be affected by it aside and let your ego win. Chloe had to do this multiple times for 4 years. Who knows how many times they cheated? It could be over 100 times, and Chloe had to put aside everyone's feelings in favor of her own. Her victims were husband, sister, son, nieces/nephews, and mother. All of those are people she's supposed to love the most. The fact that she was able to do this over and over again to people she claims to love is honestly deeply disturbing. And then for her to only care about herself afterwards. Again, I think she's a narcissist. I do not think she truly has empathy. I think she can fake it, and I think she has done that all the time, but I don't think she actually has it. Maybe she thinks she does. She doesn't seem to feel guilt and remorse. She sounds incredibly entitled and also delusional, since she can't accept the fact that her relationship with her sister is over for good, and that your relationship to her will be forever affected in some type of way. She decided to break her sister's boundaries by showing up to her kid's school. Sorry, I think you just saw who your daughter actually is deep down. I would honestly be a bit scared of my child if they did this out of the blue. It would make me question what went wrong and what else they have done that I don't know about. But I'm also very scared of narcissists or just very selfish people in general. Those types of people can really do damage to you that lasts a lifetime. Thankfully, I've never had any experience with these people, but my God, they seem terrifying. What was her father like? Sorry if this is too personal. You don't have to answer. I'm just trying to figure out where she might get it from. I'm a little worried that your family is going easy on her. I hope they aren't trying to guilt or shame Emma for not wanting to have anything to do with Chloe. Opie replied, "My husband passed about 7 years ago, but when he was alive, he did give Chloe special treatment because she was the baby of the family. I treated both my daughters equally, and we often had fights about Chloe due to unfairness and etc. He would do things like make Emma share what was supposed to be hers and give half to Chloe. Give Chloe bigger or better items, because he didn't want to upset her. We did divorce later on due to something else unrelated, but that did play a huge part. I did try my best to be fair to both my kids, and I genuinely think I was. I'm not trying to blame my late husband here. I'm just saying what he was like." The second story is from Am I the A-hole subreddit. It was posted by Protective Momig and was titled, "Am I the a-hole for the email I sent to a teacher about her? You have to include everyone rules," saying that was a dangerous lesson. My daughter is 12. I'm trying to teach her ways of creating and respecting her boundaries that are age-appropriate. Teaching her that it's okay to say no to things she feels uncomfortable with. There's a boy in her class who keeps bothering her and her female friends at recess. I've encouraged her to go to me or her teacher when this happens. My daughter told me a few days ago that in class, the teacher had asked the kids to form groups of about 4 or 5. She had formed a group of 5 with some other girls. Then the boy who had been giving her trouble at recess came over and said he was joining their group. Another girl said that they already have 5, and he should work with a group who only have 2 or 3 people. He said no because the teacher had said about 4 or 5. My daughter then said that they didn't want to work with him, and he should find another group. A few of the other girls agreed with her. He said that, "You can't exclude me like that. It's against class rules," and she said she didn't care. I heard about this from my daughter first, and the way she talked about it, she had been firm but not unkind. But then I got an email from her teacher saying she wanted to call. She said there had been an incident at school where my daughter had excluded another child, and that wasn't allowed in her class, and she wanted me to have a talk with her about it. Her telling of events was the same as my daughter's. I felt proud of my daughter for her honesty. I sent her an email saying, "Dear Mrs. Teacher, I'm sorry, but that is not a lesson I feel comfortable teaching my daughter. She's at the age where she's already having to deal with unwanted attention, and I'm making a point to teach her that she does not have to be around anyone who make her uncomfortable, and that a young lady is able to choose to spend time with people who make her feel respected. I understand you already are aware, boy has been behaving in ways that she feels uncomfortable with at recess from our prior conversations. I think it is a very dangerous lesson to teach a girl she has to include and be kind to everyone, instead of teaching her to be aware of when someone is not respecting her no and stepping out of the situation. I hope I don't have to explain in too much detail why I find this important, but to put briefly, I was brought up with the include everyone mindset. No exceptions. It taught me to ignore my own comfort level. And as I became a young adult, I became the victim of men who used my inability to say no to their advantage. It's a dangerous lesson and no longer appropriate at that age. Thank you, Opie. She emailed me back asking for a meeting in person with the principal. I'm preparing for that, but wondering if my email was too harsh. Am I the a-hole for my response to my daughter's teacher? Relevant comments. OP to a downvoted comment on why this is important. I feel like a better lesson for future life is that if you're in a group, workplace, where someone has done stuff to make you feel uncomfortable, it is okay to not want to work with them. It's okay to ask your boss to reassign you, or the other person, or to report harassment to HR, or even if HR and management don't address harassment, to leave a job. Your safety is worth more than professionalism. I feel like that's just life. There isn't a way out of it kind of attitude is dangerous because harassment doesn't have to be a part of life, and there is always a way out. I stayed at a job for way too long where my boss was harassing me, and I wish I had the lesson at that time of your safety and dignity is worth more than whatever they're paying you. Find a new job as soon as possible. OP to a deleted commenter on what the bully has done. What's he done to make them uncomfortable? When my daughter and her female friends were having girl talk, that they'd be embarrassed to have people over here. Nothing too embarrassing, just talking about kissing, which I guess is what passes as scandalous at that age. He hid near them and listened in for a while. He also chases a few of the girls around the playground, even though they don't want to play that way, and keep yelling at him to stop it and leave them alone. Does he have friends? I'm not really sure. My daughter never said either way. She said she tries to keep away from him and not pay attention to what he's up to when she can help it. So I'm not sure she'd know. Considering they're a group of 5 girls and the teacher is calling out the daughter for being exclusive, I am inclined to think, without more info, that this kid may be an outcast. I kind of get snooty girl vibes from this, but I could be totally off the mark. My daughter really isn't that type. If anything, I think she struggles with standing up for herself without feeling bad about it afterwards. I'm trying to teach her it's not something to feel guilty about. Also, a serious question for you. What about my post gave the impression that my daughter was unreasonable or mean? It is a very concerning trend when I see that any time a girl stands up for her boundaries, there's some voice going, oh, but did she go too far? Was she really justified? Seriously, I'm curious. Can you reflect on what made you ask that? And really consider how dangerous a message that can be if you ask the same thing around young women in your life. Cordy858 says, unless you were a doormat, you already know you weren't the asshole. Now, be very firm that you want that boy as far as possible of your daughter and that you will personally sue the school and the teacher if something ever happens. Hope replied, haha, as much as I try to teach my daughter about boundaries, it's still something I struggle with feeling guilty about sometimes. Hard to unlearn those wrong lessons, which is honestly why I want to teach her differently from a young age, so she doesn't grow up with that baggage. Updated 2 days later. Edit to update. I reached out to the parents of the other 4 girls in the class who were involved, and we all coordinated to go speak to the school administration together. They had similar views, thinking it was inappropriate for the school to expect the girls work with someone who they're not comfortable with, and frustrated the teacher didn't do more to deal with the issues during recess that made the girls uncomfortable to start with. I ended up asking the school if we could reschedule the meeting to a time all the involved families could make, and we ended up meeting this afternoon along with my husband, another couple, 2 mothers, and a father, along with the teacher and principal. We all presented a united front asking for the following. The school does training for the teachers on trauma-informed teaching methods and the dangers of expecting young women to go against their best judgment of their own boundaries to be nice. Instead of include everyone, the kids should be allowed to respectfully set boundaries and taught to respect each other's boundaries. The school addresses harassment in class or at recess and doesn't enable it to continue. We went to talk, and I think it went a lot better having all the parents join instead of if I'd gone alone. The teacher and principal apologized, and the principal agreed to look for resources on how to better navigate the balance between being inclusive and not forcing kids into including someone who's crossing a line with them. Thanks a lot for all the amazing advice in the comments. I cannot believe how much this blew up, and I'm so grateful to everyone who replied with advice and support. And honestly was getting pretty emotional hearing how the lessons I'm trying to teach my little one resonated with other women, whether they're moms too, or have been through some of the same struggles I have.